The stranger in the desert. The desert was silent. The wind moved slowly across the sand, whispering against the rocks. The night sky stretched endlessly, stars flickering like tiny fires in the darkness. Ethan Walker stood outside his small desert outpost, sipping from his old metal flask. The water was warm, but he didn't mind. Living alone in the middle of nowhere, he had learned not to be picky. He glanced at the horizon. Nothing but sand and stars, until something moved. At first it was just a shadow, barely visible against the dunes. Then a figure stumbled into view, legs unsteady, arms shaking. Ethan's grip on the flask tightened. A woman. But something was wrong. Her skin shimmered, almost glowing under the moonlight. Her hair was white, but not like an old person's, more like metal, reflecting light. And her eyes, silver, not normal, not human. She took another step, then collapsed. Ethan cursed under his breath and ran toward her. The first contact. She lay in the cold sand, breathing fast, her lips cracked. Her hands clutched at her throat like she was drowning on dry land. Ethan knelt beside her, unsure what to do. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes flickered open. The moment their gazes met, Ethan felt a shiver down his spine. She wasn't just looking at him. She was studying him. She opened her mouth, but no words came out, only a dry, weak gasp. Ethan's eyes dropped to his flask. Water. He quickly uncapped it and pressed it to her lips. "Drink." For a second, she hesitated. Then she took a sip, and the moment the water touched her tongue, her entire body trembled. A soft glow rippled over her skin, flickering like fire. Ethan stared, frozen. This wasn't just thirst. Something else was happening. Her breathing slowed. Her body relaxed. The weakness faded, her silver eyes focusing more clearly. She exhaled deeply, as if he had just given her more than water. Like he had given her life. A connection that shouldn't exist. Ethan sat back, heart pounding. "What the hell are you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she slowly pushed herself up, her movements smoother than before. She lifted a hand, staring at her own fingers, as if they were new to her. Then she looked at him again. "You shouldn't have done that." Her voice was soft but strangely sharp, like it wasn't used to speaking. Ethan frowned. "I gave you water. You were dying." Her silver eyes flickered. "I was dying, yes, but water alone couldn't save me." Ethan's breath slowed. Then what did? She hesitated. Then she reached forward, her fingers barely brushing his arm. A shock ran through Ethan's body. Heat, energy, something unseen. He gasped and jerked away, heart racing. "What was that?" She exhaled. "Your life force." Ethan's blood ran cold. What did she just take from him? The danger that follows. Before Ethan could demand answers, a sound rumbled in the distance. Low, mechanical, not human. The woman snapped her head toward the dunes, her body tense. "They found me." Ethan's stomach twisted. "Who?" She didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed his wrist. Another wave of heat passed between them, and Ethan felt it. His senses sharpened. The wind felt clearer, the sand beneath him more detailed. He could hear movement in the distance, something approaching fast. She pulled him up. "We have to leave. Now." Ethan wasn't sure what was happening, but one thing was clear. Whatever had crashed into his life tonight was only the beginning. And now he was part of it. The hunt begins. The desert was no longer silent. A low, mechanical hum vibrated through the air. Ethan felt it before he heard it, like a distant thunderstorm, rolling toward them. Except this storm was not natural. The strange woman's grip tightened around his wrist. Her silver eyes flickered with urgent fear. "We don't have time. Move." Ethan hesitated for only a second before following her into the darkness. The first signs of change. They ran across the dunes, their shadows stretching beneath the moonlight. Ethan's heartbeat thundered in his ears, but something was off. He wasn't just running. He was moving faster than he should have been. His breathing was steady, controlled. His body felt lighter. He glanced down at his arm, the place where she had touched him. The skin tingled. His pulse wasn't just racing, it was humming. What did she do to me? Before he could ask, she stopped suddenly, pushing him down behind a jagged rock formation. Ethan barely had time to duck before a dark shape passed overhead. A ship. Its surface was sleek, almost blending into the night, except for the faint red glow pulsing from beneath it. Ethan stiffened. That's not from Earth. The woman didn't look at him. Her eyes remained on the ship, unblinking. They found us faster than I expected. Ethan's stomach twisted. Who are they? She finally turned to him, her face a mask of calm determination. The Vayari hunters. And if they catch us. She trailed off. She didn't need to finish. Ethan already knew. He wouldn't live to see the sunrise. An unnatural strength. The ship hovered for a moment, scanning the dunes. Ethan could feel the weight of its presence pressing against his chest. It wasn't just a machine. It was alive. The woman beside him stayed perfectly still, but her body radiated tension. She was waiting. And then, without warning, she moved. In one fluid motion, she leaped forward, grabbing a chunk of rock and launching it at the ship. Ethan barely had time to process what he was seeing. Because the rock didn't just hit the ship, it shattered part of its outer shell. Like a missile. Ethan's breath caught. She's stronger than she looks. The ship lurched, its sensors flickering wildly. Then, the desert lit up in red. The ship's spotlights locked onto them. The woman turned to Ethan, her silver eyes burning. Run. The first fight. Ethan didn't need to be told twice. They raced down the dunes, sand kicking up behind them. A deafening blast tore through the ground, barely missing them. The ship was firing. Ethan's lungs burned, but somehow his legs didn't slow. Why do I feel so fast? So strong? But now wasn't the time for questions, because the hunters were landing. Ethan risked a glance back. 3 figures emerged from the shadows, stepping onto the sand. They weren't human. Tall, armored in black exosuits that pulsed with an eerie red glow. Their faces were hidden behind sleek, bone-white masks. They didn't move like soldiers. They moved like predators. Ethan's body tensed instinctively. He wasn't a fighter. Not anymore. But something inside him shifted, like a voice whispering in the back of his mind. You can take them. He didn't know where that thought came from, but he wasn't sure he liked it. The woman beside him exhaled sharply. If we don't fight, we die. Ethan swallowed. Looks like he had no choice. The awakening. The first hunter moved. 1 second, they were standing still. The next, they were right in front of Ethan. Too fast. Ethan had no time to react. The hunter grabbed him by the throat, lifting him off the ground effortlessly. Ethan gasped, struggling. He could feel it, something draining from him, like a thread being pulled from his soul. Pain shot through his body. His muscles screamed. He was going to die. Then, the woman touched his arm, and everything changed. A surge of energy erupted inside him, raw and electric. His vision snapped into focus. Time slowed. And then, without thinking, Ethan moved. His fist connected with the hunter's chest, and the impact sent the creature flying. Not possible. The other 2 hunters stiffened. The woman stared at him. Ethan stared at his own hands. His skin was still human. But inside, he was something else. The woman's voice was barely a whisper. The bond. It's already changing you. Ethan's chest rose and fell sharply. This wasn't just about her anymore. Something inside him had woken up, and he had no idea what it was turning him into. The power within. The desert was alive with fire. The Vayari hunters regrouped, their armor pulsing as they circled Ethan and the strange woman. The air hummed with tension, charged with something invisible but deadly. Ethan's breath came fast, but his body, it didn't feel tired. If anything, he felt stronger, lighter, faster, more alive than ever. He looked down at his hands. His skin was normal, but something beneath it wasn't. The woman beside him, Soraya, watched him carefully. Her silver eyes narrowed. "You're different now." Ethan swallowed. "What did you do to me?" Before she could answer, the hunters moved. The second fight. One of the Vayari warriors lunged, its movements too fast for a human to react to. But Ethan wasn't just human anymore. His body moved on its own. The hunter's blade sliced toward his throat. Ethan dodged, without thinking. His instincts weren't just human reflexes. They were something else, something more. The second hunter fired a pulse weapon. Ethan's body twisted away before his mind could catch up. He landed in the sand, breath steady, too steady. Soraya was watching him again, not with fear, not with confusion, but with understanding. "Your body is adapting to me." Ethan clenched his fists. "What does that mean?" Soraya didn't answer. Instead, she moved. Her silver blade flashed, cutting through the first hunter's armor with inhuman precision. The other two hesitated. They weren't expecting a fight like this. Ethan could feel their hesitation. He didn't know how. But he did. And that's when he realized he wasn't just stronger. He could sense them. Their next move. Their energy. It was like a map in his mind, each movement playing out a second before it happened. Ethan's breath hitched. This isn't normal. Soraya wiped the blood from her blade, her voice steady. "You were never meant to be normal." The truth she was hiding. The last two hunters backed away slowly. Their leader, still crouched in the sand, wasn't moving. The fight was over. For now. But Ethan wasn't done with questions. He turned to Soraya, his voice sharper than before. "Tell me the truth." She exhaled, her silver eyes softening for the first time. "You're not just a man anymore, Ethan. You're something more." Ethan's chest tightened. "Because of you." She hesitated, then nodded. "Because of the bond." Ethan shook his head. "What bond? I just gave you water." Soraya studied him, her face unreadable. "You gave me more than that." Ethan's hands shook slightly. His heartbeat was steady, but his body, it felt like it was too aware, too awake. Soraya stepped closer, her voice softer now. "My kind doesn't just need water. We need energy, life force." Ethan's stomach twisted. "You fed on me." She shook her head. "No, I didn't take. You gave." Ethan's breath hitched. Soraya met his gaze. "And now, you're changing." The hunter's last words. A low mechanical noise filled the air. Ethan turned. One of the fallen hunters was still alive. Its mask was cracked, revealing glimpses of pale, gray skin beneath. The hunter's voice was distorted, but Ethan understood every word. "You have no idea what you are." Ethan's fists clenched. "Then tell me." The hunter laughed. A low, static-filled sound. The Vayari never bonded with humans before. His glowing red eyes flickered. Because the last time they tried, it created something far worse than us. Ethan's chest tightened. "What?" The hunter grinned through the blood. "It created monsters." Then, with a final shuddering breath, the hunter's body collapsed. The desert fell silent. Ethan looked at Soraya. She wasn't surprised. She already knew. Ethan took a slow, shaking breath. "You're still not telling me everything." Soraya turned away, staring at the night sky. Then, finally, she spoke. "Because if I tell you, you'll never look at yourself the same way again." The forgotten experiment. The desert stretched endlessly, but Ethan no longer noticed the sand, the stars, or the cold night air. His mind echoed with the hunter's last words. The last time the Vayari bonded with a human, it created monsters. Ethan clenched his fists. His skin still looked normal. His heart still beat in his chest. But deep down, he knew something had changed. He could still feel the energy inside him, humming beneath his skin like an engine waiting to ignite. Soraya stood beside him, silent, staring at the horizon. Avoiding his gaze, Ethan finally turned to her. "You knew." Soraya's silver eyes flickered with something he couldn't name. Guilt? Fear? Pain? "I suspected." Ethan took a slow breath, his frustration growing. "So tell me, Soraya, what am I becoming?" She hesitated. Then, finally, she told him the truth. The experiment that was erased. Centuries ago, the Vayari were dying. Soraya began, her voice quiet. "We needed more than water. We needed life force. Energy. But no species in the galaxy could sustain us without breaking." Ethan's stomach tightened. "But humans were different." Soraya nodded. "Your kind was stronger than we expected. The first test subjects didn't just..." Soraya's face twisted in something close to sorrow. "I can't." Ethan's breath came sharp. "Then what happens next?" Soraya exhaled, glancing at the desert sky. Then she looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "You either control it, or it controls you." The arrival of the Watchers. Before Ethan could respond, the wind changed. A low hum rumbled through the ground. Ethan turned, his senses flaring. Something was coming. Soraya's expression turned cold. "We have to move." Ethan's instincts screamed at him. The desert wasn't empty anymore. Dark figures emerged from the dunes, their movements slow, calculated. They weren't hunters. They were something else. Soraya whispered under her breath. "The Watchers." Ethan's skin prickled. "Who?" Soraya didn't answer. Because the Watchers had already surrounded them, and their leader stepped forward. A tall, hooded figure, its face hidden in the shadows. But when it spoke, its voice was deep, ancient. "You should not exist, Ethan Walker." Ethan's breath stopped. They knew his name. They knew what he was becoming. And by the way they stood, motionless, silent as statues, he knew they weren't here to capture him. They were here to erase him. The ones who watch. The Watchers stood in perfect stillness, their figures blending into the night like shadows carved from stone. Ethan's heartbeat thudded in his chest. They weren't just enemies. They weren't even moving. Yet somehow, he could feel their presence pressing against his mind, like an invisible hand gripping his thoughts. Soraya stood rigid beside him, her silver eyes sharp. "They're not like the hunters." Her voice was low, tight. "They don't chase. They wait." Ethan swallowed. Wait for what? The leader of the Watchers tilted its head slightly. Then it spoke. "For you to prove what you are." The silent war. A deep hum pulsed through the desert. It wasn't sound. It was pressure, a force pushing against Ethan's body, against his thoughts. For a split second, his vision blurred. And suddenly, he wasn't in the desert anymore. The mind test. Ethan blinked. The world around him had shifted. No sand, no stars, only darkness. And then, flashes of light. Images exploded in his mind, too fast to process. A burning sky, creatures that looked like him, but weren't. A city swallowed by golden fire, voices screaming. A word echoed through the void. Hybrid. Ethan gasped. The desert snapped back into focus. His knees hit the sand, his breath coming in sharp, ragged bursts. He wasn't in control. Something was inside him. Something waiting to wake up. The Watcher leader took a step forward. "Do you see it now?" Ethan's hands shook. He wasn't just changing. He was remembering. The truth they hid from him. Soraya grabbed Ethan's wrist, pulling him up. "Don't listen to them," she hissed. "They'll make you doubt yourself." But Ethan wasn't so sure. What had he just seen? The Watcher leader's voice was deep, knowing. You are not the first. Ethan clenched his fists. Then what happened to the ones before me? The Watcher's answer was calm. Final. They lost. A chill ran down Ethan's spine. Lost. Did that mean they had died? Or did it mean something worse? Soraya stepped forward, her energy flaring. Enough. We are leaving. The Watcher leader remained still. You cannot run from what you are becoming. Soraya's eyes narrowed. Watch me. Without another word, she grabbed Ethan's hand. And then, they vanished. The escape. They reappeared miles away, at the base of a jagged canyon. Ethan stumbled, his pulse racing. Soraya's grip on his wrist was tight, unrelenting. We don't have time, she said. If they find us again, they'll take you. Ethan pulled his hand away. Then tell me the truth, Soraya. She exhaled sharply. I told you the truth. Ethan shook his head. No, you told me the history, but you didn't tell me why they think I'll end up like the others. Soraya hesitated. Then softly, she said, because you are the only one who was born human first. Ethan froze. His stomach twisted. He wasn't like the others. He was something new, and that terrified Soraya more than anything. The choice that cannot be undone. The night stretched ahead, the desert silent once more. Ethan looked at his hands. At the energy he could feel crawling beneath his skin. If he kept going down this path, he wouldn't be human anymore. Would he even recognize himself? He turned to Soraya. How do I stop it? She didn't answer. Because they both knew the truth. There was no stopping it. Ethan took a deep breath. Then, slowly, he asked the only question that mattered. What happens when I fully change? Soraya's silver eyes held his, and her answer was the most terrifying thing of all. I don't know. The desert wind whispered around them. The stars burned overhead, and Ethan knew his time was running out. The evolution begins. The night was colder than before, or maybe it was just Ethan. His skin still looked human, but beneath the surface, something shifted, stirred. He could feel it. Like a second heartbeat, a second mind. And no matter how hard he tried to ignore it, it was growing. Soraya sat by the fire, watching him. Her silver eyes weren't just concerned anymore. They were calculating. Ethan exhaled sharply. You're afraid of me. Soraya didn't deny it. Instead, she said, I'm afraid of what you might become. Ethan ran a hand over his face. I didn't ask for this. Soraya sighed. Neither did the ones before you. Ethan's jaw tightened. And what happened to them? She hesitated. Then, finally, she answered. The ones who came before. You are the first human to bond like this. Soraya's voice was quiet, but the weight behind it crushed the air between them. But you're not the first attempt. Ethan's hands curled into fists. The Watchers said the others lost. What does that mean? Soraya closed her eyes for a moment. Then she whispered, It means they stopped being themselves. Ethan's stomach twisted. Soraya's gaze lifted back to his. The bond didn't just make them stronger, it took them over. Until there was nothing left of who they were. Ethan swallowed hard. So they went insane. Soraya shook her head. No, worse. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. She stared into the fire, her voice distant. They became something else, something with no past, no identity, just power. Her silver eyes flickered with an emotion Ethan hadn't seen before. Regret. Ethan's skin prickled. What aren't you telling me? Soraya hesitated. Then, softly, she said, The Watchers don't just kill hybrids, Ethan. They're trying to stop whatever you're turning into. Ethan's breath caught. A chilling thought gripped his mind. What if the Watchers weren't the enemy? What if he was? The first surge. Before Ethan could process it, the ground trembled. His entire body flared with heat, a burning sensation crawling up his spine. Pain. It wasn't like before. This wasn't the bond adjusting. This was something breaking free. Ethan collapsed to his knees, gasping. The world around him warped. His vision flashed. He saw things that weren't there, or maybe things that hadn't happened yet. A city on fire. A sky torn apart. A creature standing where he should be. But it wasn't him anymore. It had his face, but its eyes burned gold. It opened its mouth, and the world screamed. Ethan snapped back into reality, gasping for air. His skin was glowing faintly. The desert air felt thick, like the whole planet was pressing down on him. Soraya was already at his side, her hands gripping his shoulders. Her voice was sharp, urgent. "Ethan, stay with me." He forced himself to breathe. "What is happening to me?" Soraya's grip tightened. "Your body is still yours, but not for long." Ethan's entire soul twisted. He met her gaze. "What do I do?" Soraya exhaled, her expression unreadable. Then she said the words he never wanted to hear. "You have to fight yourself." The final warning. The fire crackled between them. Ethan's chest rose and fell sharply. Fighting an enemy. He could do that. Fighting himself. How the hell was he supposed to do that? Soraya's silver eyes never wavered. "If you don't take control now, you'll never get it back." Ethan exhaled slowly, forcing his mind to settle. His fingers twitched. He could feel the power inside him, pushing, waiting. It wasn't evil. It wasn't good. It was just there, like a sleeping giant waiting to wake up. Soraya's voice dropped to a whisper. "This is your last chance, Ethan." Ethan clenched his jaw. "And if I lose?" Soraya's face was unreadable, but her answer was clear. "Then I have to kill you." The desert wind howled, and Ethan knew his time had run out. The final battle. The desert stretched endlessly, but Ethan no longer felt like he was standing in it. The fire, the sand, even the cold wind, it all felt distant, because inside him, something was waking up, a force he couldn't control. And if he didn't stop it, he wouldn't exist anymore. Soraya stood in front of him, her silver eyes locked onto his. She had already made her choice. If he lost himself, she would end him. Ethan exhaled, his breath shaking. "I'm still me." Soraya didn't blink. "Prove it." And then, the world exploded. The storm within. Ethan staggered, his body burning from the inside out. Golden light flared from his skin, surging like lightning beneath the surface. His senses were sharper than ever, his vision flickering between past, present, and something else entirely. He saw flashes of a future that didn't exist yet. A city in flames, a battlefield soaked in golden fire. And himself, or something wearing his face, standing in the center of it. Soraya's voice snapped him back. "Ethan, stay here." But the power was too strong. It pulled at him, twisted around his thoughts. Whispers crawled into his mind. "Let go. You don't need control. Just give in." Ethan clenched his teeth. "No." The whispers hissed. "You think you're human. You never were." His vision blurred. His body shook. And suddenly, Soraya was gone. The dream that wasn't a dream. Ethan opened his eyes. He was standing in a place that shouldn't exist. A city of towering structures, all burning in golden flames. Figures moved through the fire, people with his face, his body. But they weren't him. Their eyes glowed empty. They weren't alive. They were power. Mindless. Unstoppable. Weapons. A voice rumbled from the sky above. Deep, hollow, unfamiliar, but still his own. "You are the last of us. Finish what we started." Ethan shook his head. "No, I'm not one of you." The golden figures turned to him, watching, waiting. And then, all at once, they rushed forward. Ethan braced himself. And then, a hand grabbed his wrist. A new voice cut through the storm. Familiar. Real. Ethan, wake up. The last stand. The world snapped back. The desert. The fire. The cold air. Ethan gasped, his lungs burning. Soraya was kneeling beside him, her hand gripping his wrist, her face filled with something he hadn't seen before. Desperation. ***, you almost lost yourself. ***, her voice was shaking. Ethan exhaled sharply. He could still feel the power inside him, but now it wasn't controlling him. He was controlling it. The whispers were gone. The golden light dimmed. Soraya let out a slow breath, her hands trembling as she pulled away. You did it. Ethan swallowed hard. Yeah. Then he looked at his hands. But for how long? Soraya's silver eyes darkened. That depends on what happens next. Ethan turned toward the horizon. The Watchers were waiting. They had given him a chance, and now they would decide if he had truly won his war, or if they would erase him before he could ever lose it again. Ethan exhaled. Then he took his first step forward. Whatever happened next, he was ready. The end.